You think you're so smart? This isn't over.
I was fixing a broken lamp in my den at 2 in the morning when I heard Erin's car pull into our driveway. The engine sound was different, smoother, more expensive than her usual Honda. I set down my screwdriver and listened to her heels, clicking on the walkway, each step a lie I'd been hearing for months. "Nick, you still up?" Her voice carried that fake sweetness she used when she'd been doing something she shouldn't. "In here," I called back, not looking up from the lamp's exposed wiring. The irony wasn't lost on me. I spent my days as an electrical engineer, designing circuits that worked perfectly, while my marriage short-circuited a little more each day. Erin appeared in the doorway, her red dress wrinkled in places that told a story I didn't want to read. Her lipstick was gone, and there was a scent clinging to her that wasn't her usual perfume. Something masculine and expensive. "How was the business dinner?" I asked, finally meeting her eyes. "Oh, you know how these client meetings go. Boring presentations, terrible wine." She laughed, but it sounded hollow in the quiet room. "Derek Klein from Klein Realty was there. He mentioned he might have some referrals for your consulting work." Derek Klein. The name had been coming up a lot lately. Always in passing, always casual, always with that same forced lightness in her voice. "That's nice of him," I said, returning to the lamp. "Though I noticed you forgot your wedding ring on the bathroom sink again." Her hand instinctively went to her finger, and I saw the slight indentation where the ring should have been. "Oh, I was washing my hands and must have been some hand washing. It's been sitting there for 3 days." The silence stretched between us like a wire about to snap. Erin shifted her weight, and I heard her phone buzz. She glanced at it quickly, then shoved it back in her purse. "I'm tired, Nick. Can we not do this tonight?" "Do what?" "I'm just fixing a lamp." She turned to leave, but I wasn't done. "Erin, what?" "Next time you're out late with clients, maybe don't park Derek's Tesla in our driveway. Mrs. Callahan has been asking questions." Her face went white, then red. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The Tesla Model S, midnight blue, license plate DK Real 1. Pretty memorable car for a pretty memorable mistake." She opened her mouth to respond, but her phone rang. The caller ID flashed on her screen before she could hide it. Derek Klein. "Aren't you going to answer that?" I asked. "Might be important business." Instead, she declined the call and stormed out. I heard her bedroom door slam. Our bedroom had become hers months ago, when I moved to the guest room, officially for my snoring, but really because the pretense was getting exhausting for both of us. I went back to the lamp, but my hands were shaking slightly. Not from anger, from something colder. I'd suspected for weeks, but seeing that phone call confirmed what I already knew. My wife was cheating on me with Derek Klein, and they thought I was too stupid or too weak to do anything about it. They were wrong on both counts. The next morning, I found a receipt in Erin's jacket pocket while doing laundry. The Marriott downtown, 2 glasses of wine, 2 entrees, 1 room. The date was last Tuesday, the night she'd claimed to be at her book club. I took a photo of the receipt and put it back exactly where I'd found it. Then I did something I'd never done before. I logged into our home Wi-Fi router's admin panel. The device list showed the usual suspects: our phones, laptops, the smart TV, but there was one device that made my blood run cold. Derek's iPad, connected from 11:47 p.m. to 2:33 a.m. Last Tuesday. He'd been in our house, in our bedroom. I needed air, so I drove to the Rusty Nail, the dive bar on the edge of town, where my best friend Tommy worked as a bouncer. Tommy Randall was built like a refrigerator with a Boston accent, and he had a talent for reading people that came from years of dealing with drunks and troublemakers. "You look like someone stole your dog and kicked your grandmother," Tommy said as I slumped onto a bar stool. "Worse, someone's stealing my wife." "Erin?" Tommy's eyebrows shot up. "You sure?" I showed him the receipt and told him about the Tesla, the phone calls, the late nights. Tommy listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding or grimacing. "So what's the plan?" he asked when I finished. "I don't have one yet. Part of me wants to confront her, but you're smarter than that," Tommy finished. "Good. Because if you're going to play this game, you better play it right. Half-assed revenge is worse than no revenge at all." As if summoned by our conversation, Erin walked into the bar. She was with her best friend Sienna, a social media influencer who treated real life like content for her Instagram stories. But they weren't alone. Derek Klein was with them, his arm casually draped around the back of Aaron's chair as they found a booth in the corner. Well, crap, Tommy muttered. That's ballsy, even for a cheater. I watched them for a moment. Derek was exactly what I'd expected, tall, artificially tanned, wearing a suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. He had that smug confidence that comes from never being told no, never facing real consequences. Erin was laughing at something he'd said, her hand resting on his arm in a way that made my stomach turn. I'm going over there, I said. Nick, don't, but I was already moving. As I approached their table, I saw Sienna notice me first. She whispered something to Erin, who turned and saw me coming. The color drained from her face. Nick, she said too loudly. What are you doing here? Having a drink with Tommy, mind if I join you? Derek looked up at me with barely concealed amusement. You must be the husband. Derek Klein. He extended his hand, but didn't stand up. I shook his hand, noting his deliberately firm grip, the kind of handshake meant to establish dominance. Nick Harlan, I've heard a lot about you. All good things, I hope, Derek said, his smile not reaching his eyes. Oh, absolutely. Erin talks about you constantly. Your business dinners, your late-night phone calls, your collaborative approach to client relations. The table went dead silent. Sienna was staring at her phone like it might teleport her somewhere else. Erin's hand was frozen on Derek's arm, and Derek's smile had turned predatory. Nick, Erin said carefully, maybe we should talk about this at home. Talk about what? I'm just being friendly, getting to know your business partner. Derek leaned back in his chair, studying me. You know, Nick, I can see why Erin might feel a little unappreciated. Marriage is hard work. Sometimes people need to feel valued. The implication hung in the air like smoke. This wasn't just an affair. This was a deliberate humiliation. Derek wasn't just sleeping with my wife. He was enjoying the fact that I knew it. You're absolutely right, I said, my voice steady. People do need to feel valued and respected. And sometimes, when they don't get that respect, they have to find creative ways to earn it. I pulled out my phone and set it on the table, making sure the voice recorder app was visible and running. What are you doing? Erin asked, panic creeping into her voice. Just making sure I remember this conversation correctly. Derek was just explaining how marriage works. Please, continue. Derek's confidence flickered for just a moment, but he recovered quickly. I think we're done here. Oh, but we're just getting started, I said. I was hoping you could explain something to me, Derek. How exactly does your wife feel about your collaborative approach to business? That hit home. Derek's jaw tightened, and I saw genuine anger flash in his eyes. My marriage is none of your business. Funny, I was about to say the same thing about mine. I stood up, pocketing my phone. Enjoy your drinks. And Derek, thanks for the advice about feeling valued. I think I'm going to take it to heart. As I walked away, I heard Erin calling my name, but I didn't turn around. Tommy was waiting by the bar, grinning. That was either really smart or really stupid, he said. We'll find out which, I replied. But either way, it's about to get interesting. Outside in the parking lot, I saw Derek's Tesla, parked in a handicapped spot. The vanity plate read DK Real One, just as I had remembered. I took several photos of the car and its illegal parking job, then got in my own car and drove home. I had work to do. The next morning, Erin was gone before I woke up. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. Gone to Mom's for a few days, need to think. I crumpled the note and threw it away. If she wanted to think, I'd give her something to think about. I spent the day researching Derek Klein. Social media made it easy. His Instagram was full of photos of expensive cars, luxury vacations, and real estate success stories. His LinkedIn showed he was married to a woman named Patricia, a pediatric nurse at Derry Heights General. They had 2 kids, both under 10. More interesting was what I found in the public records. Derek's real estate company was leveraged to the hilt, with several lawsuits pending from unhappy clients. His perfect life was built on a foundation of debt and legal problems. That evening, my phone rang. It was Erin. Nick, we need to talk. I'm listening, not over the phone. Can you meet me at Rossetti's? 8 o'clock? Rossetti's was the upscale Italian place downtown where we'd had our first anniversary dinner. The irony was probably intentional. Will Derek be joining us? I asked. This is about us, Nick. Just us. But when I arrived at Rossetti's, Derek was already there, sitting at a corner table with Erin. She had the grace to look embarrassed, but Derek looked like he was enjoying himself. Sorry about the surprise, Aaron said as I sat down, but Derek thought it would be better if we all talked this through like adults. How thoughtful of him, I said. I'm sure his wife would appreciate his commitment to adult conversation. Derek's smile tightened. My marriage isn't on trial here, Nick. Neither is mine. At least, not yet. The waiter came by and Derek ordered an expensive bottle of wine without consulting anyone else. Another power play, another way to establish dominance. I let him do it. Look, Nick, Derek said once the wine arrived. I know this is awkward, but let's be honest about what's happening here. Erin is unhappy. She's been unhappy for a long time. You can either accept that and move forward, or you can make this ugly for everyone. Define ugly. Lawyers, divorce proceedings, public embarrassment. Nobody wants that. I looked at Erin, who was staring at her wine glass. Is that what you want? A divorce? She finally met my eyes. I want to be happy, Nick. I want to feel alive again. And Derek makes you feel alive? Derek answered before she could. I make her feel appreciated, valued, like a woman should feel. The condescension in his voice was breathtaking. He wasn't just stealing my wife, he was enjoying the process of breaking me down, of proving his superiority. That's beautiful, I said. Really? How long has this been going on? Erin looked uncomfortable, but Derek seemed happy to answer. Does it matter? We're here now, talking about the future. Humor me. I'm curious about the timeline. Derek leaned back in his chair, wine making him bold. 6 months, give or take. Started as a business relationship, became something more. These things happen. 6 months, I repeated. So around the time Erin started those late-night client meetings, Nick, please, Erin said. No, it's fine. Derek's being honest. I appreciate honesty. I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table. In fact, I'm recording this conversation for clarity. Derek's confidence evaporated. You can't do that without consent. Actually, in Massachusetts, I only need consent from one party to the conversation. That would be me. I smiled at him. But please, continue telling me about your 6-month affair with my wife. I'm finding it very educational. The table fell silent. Derek was staring at my phone like it was a loaded tool, and Erin looked like she might be sick. Turn that off, Derek said. Why? I thought we were all being adults here, having an honest conversation about the future. Turn it off, or I'm leaving. Your choice. But if you leave now, Erin and I will continue this conversation privately, and I'll still be recording. Derek looked trapped, which was exactly how I wanted him to feel. He glanced at Erin, who was no help at all, then back at me. What do you want? He asked. I want you to finish what you were saying, about how these things happen, about how you make my wife feel appreciated. I'm not saying anything else with that thing running. Then we have a problem because I'm not turning it off. The standoff lasted maybe 30 seconds, but it felt like an hour. Finally, Derek stood up. This is ridiculous. Erin, I'll call you tomorrow. He threw a 20 on the table and walked out, leaving Erin and me alone. I turned off the recording. Happy now? She asked. Getting there. Tell me something, Erin. When you were deciding to cheat on me, did you consider the consequences, or were you too busy feeling appreciated? It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You made a choice. Derek made a choice. Now I get to make mine. I stood up and headed for the door, leaving her with the check and a lot to think about. The next morning, I uploaded the audio file to my computer and cleaned it up using some software I'd picked up for work presentations. Derek's voice came through crystal clear. 6 months, give or take, started as a business relationship, became something more. Then I did something that would have been unthinkable a week earlier. I created an anonymous email account and sent the audio file to Patricia Klein along with a simple message. Thought you should know what your husband does during his business meetings. I also sent copies to Derek's business partners and the president of the country club where he spent most of his time networking. Then I waited. I didn't have to wait long. By noon, my phone was ringing. It was Derek, and he was furious. You son of a witch! What did you do? I shared some audio with people who might find it interesting. I thought you believed in honest adult conversation. My wife is threatening to leave me. My business partners are asking questions. Sounds like you're experiencing some consequences. How does that feel? You have no idea what you've started. Actually, I think I have a pretty good idea, but I'm just getting warmed up. I hung up on him and immediately called Len Carter, a private investigator I'd found online. Len, was an ex-cop who specialized in marital investigations, and his reviews suggested he was both thorough and discreet. We met at a diner on the outskirts of town. Len was in his 50s, with graying hair and the kind of tired eyes that came from seeing too much human nature at its worst. "So your wife's cheating with this Derek Klein character," he said after I'd explained the situation. "And you want me to dig up what exactly?" "Everything. His finances, his other affairs, because I guarantee Aaron isn't his first. His business practices, anything that might be useful." "Useful for what? Divorce proceedings?" "Maybe, or maybe just to level the playing field." Len studied me for a moment. "You seem pretty calm for a guy whose wife is cheating on him." "I'm past the emotional part. Now I'm in the problem-solving phase." "Fair enough. My rate is $500 a day plus expenses. I'll need a retainer." I wrote him a check for $2,000. "How long do you think this will take?" "Give me a week. If Klein's got skeletons, I'll find them." While Len did his work, I focused on gathering my own intelligence. I started with Sienna, Aaron's best friend and biggest enabler. Her social media presence was extensive and poorly secured. Her Instagram stories were public, and she had a habit of oversharing. Over the next few days, I pieced together a timeline of Aaron and Derek's affair through Sienna's posts. Photos of girls' nights that included Derek in the background. Check-ins at restaurants where Derek's Tesla was visible in the parking lot. Even a few shots of Aaron wearing jewelry I'd never seen before. Expensive pieces that were clearly gifts. But the real breakthrough came from Mrs. Callahan, our elderly neighbor, who spent most of her time watching the street from her front window. I'd always found her nosiness annoying, but now it was exactly what I needed. "Oh yes, dear," she said when I stopped by with some cookies as a pretext for conversation. "I've seen that blue car in your driveway several times, usually when you're at work. I was wondering if you had a new business partner or something." "Something like that. Do you remember when you first started seeing it?" "Oh, months ago. March, maybe?" I remember because it was right after that big snowstorm, and I thought it was odd that someone would risk driving such an expensive car in those conditions. March was when Erin had started her fitness routine that required her to leave the house at odd hours. Another lie, another deception. "Did you ever see who was driving it?" "A tall man, and on breast, but he seemed very familiar with your house, if you know what I mean." I knew exactly what she meant. Len called me on Friday with his preliminary findings. We met at the same diner, and he spread a folder full of documents across the table. "Your boy Derek is in deep financial trouble," he said. "His real estate company owes about $2 million in various debts, and he's facing 3 lawsuits from clients who claim he misrepresented properties. His marriage has been rocky for years. Patricia Klein filed for divorce once already back in 2019, but withdrew the petition." "What about other affairs?" "Oh, he's a busy boy. I found evidence of at least 2 other relationships in the past 3 years. One with a client, another with a woman who works at the country club. Both married, both ended badly." "How badly?" "The client's husband found out and made a scene at Derek's office. Had to be escorted out by security. The country club woman's marriage ended in a very expensive divorce, and she's been posting some interesting things about Derek on social media. Nothing actionable, but definitely bitter." I studied the documents. Bank statements, court filings, private messages that Len had somehow obtained. Derek Klein wasn't just a cheater. He was a predator who targeted vulnerable married women and destroyed families for sport. "There's something else," Len said. "Your wife isn't just having an affair with this guy. She's been helping him." "What do you mean?" "Her PR company has been doing work for Derek's real estate business. Free work, according to the contracts I found. She's been using her professional skills to help cover up his financial problems, make his company look more successful than it is." That hit me like a physical blow. Erin hadn't just betrayed our marriage, she'd betrayed her professional ethics to help Derek commit what amounted to fraud. How much trouble could she be in for that? Depends on how deep it goes. If she knowingly helped him mislead clients or creditors, she could face professional sanctions, maybe even criminal charges. I sat back in the booth, processing this information. Erin had risked everything, our marriage, her career, her reputation, for Derek Klein. And Derek had used her skills and connections to prop up his failing business while destroying other people's lives. "What do you want me to do with all this?" Len asked. "Keep digging. I want to know everything about Derek Klein. Every debt, every affair, every lie he's ever told. and I want to know exactly how deep Aaron is in his business dealings. That's going to cost more money. I don't care. This isn't about money anymore. As I drove home, my phone buzzed with a text from Aaron. Can we please talk? I'm ready to be honest about everything. I almost laughed. She was ready to be honest now, after months of lies and deception. After risking her career to help her lover commit fraud. After humiliating me in front of friends and neighbors. I texted back, too late for honesty, but thanks for the offer. It was time to move from gathering intelligence to taking action. The Derry Heights Country Club's annual summer mixer was the social event of the season, where the town's elite gathered to see and be seen. Derek Klein would be there. He never missed an opportunity to network and show off. More importantly, so would his wife Patricia and most of his business associates. I hadn't planned to attend, but Tommy convinced me otherwise. You've got all this dirt on the guy, he said as we sat at the Rusty Nail planning my next move. What good does it do sitting in a folder? Time to go public. I can't just walk up to people and start spreading rumors. You don't have to. You just have to be in the right place when the right conversations happen. He was right. The country club mixer would be perfect. Alcohol would be flowing, tongues would be loose, and Derek's enemies would be looking for ammunition. I bought a ticket and spent the afternoon preparing. I made copies of the most damaging documents Len had found. The bank statements showing Derek's debts, the court filings from his lawsuits, the evidence of his other affairs. Nothing illegal, nothing stolen, just public records and information that had been carelessly exposed. The mixer was held on the club's terrace, with a view of the golf course and a bar that served top-shelf everything. I arrived fashionably late and immediately spotted Derek holding court near the bar, regaling a group of potential clients with stories of his success. Patricia Klein was across the terrace, talking with other wives and pointedly ignoring her husband. She looked tired and stressed, like a woman who'd been dealing with problems for a long time. I got a drink and started circulating, listening to conversations and waiting for the right moment. It came sooner than expected. Nick Harlan, I haven't seen you in months. It was Bill Morrison, a local businessman who'd been trying to get Derek to handle the sale of some commercial property. Bill had always been friendly, but I could see the calculation in his eyes. He was wondering if I might be useful to him somehow. Bill, good to see you. How's the real estate market treating you? Can't complain. Actually, I've been working with Derek Klein on a few deals. You know Derek, right? I heard he's been doing some work with your wife's PR company. Oh yes, Derek and I know each other well. In fact, I was just looking at some of his recent projects. Very interesting business model. I pulled out my phone and showed Bill one of Derek's property listings. A commercial building that Derek was advertising as fully leased when court documents showed it was actually in foreclosure. Bill's expression changed as he studied the information. This doesn't match what he told me about his portfolio. Really? That's strange. Maybe you should ask him about it directly. Before Bill could respond, Derek appeared at my elbow. He'd obviously been watching me and didn't like what he saw. Nick, what a surprise. I didn't know you were a country club member. Just for tonight, Bill and I were just discussing your business. He's very impressed with your success. Derek's smile was razor sharp. I'm sure he is. We should probably let Bill get back to his evening, though. I'd love to catch up with you privately. Actually, Bill said, I'd like to hear more about this property situation. Nick was showing me some interesting documents. Derek's face went pale, but he recovered quickly. I'm sure there's just some confusion. Property deals can be complicated. Complicated enough to involve multiple lawsuits? I asked innocently. Bill, did Derek mention the 3 pending cases against his company? 3 lawsuits? Bill looked shocked. Derek, what's this about? Derek shot me a look that could have melted steel. Nick's obviously been doing some creative research. I wouldn't put too much stock in whatever gossip he's spreading. Gossip? I pulled out copies of the court filings. These are public records filed in Suffolk County Superior Court. You can look them up yourself. A small crowd was starting to gather, drawn by the tension in our voices. I recognized several of Derek's potential clients and business partners, all looking increasingly uncomfortable. This is neither the time nor the place for this discussion, Derek said, his voice tight with controlled anger. You're absolutely right, I agreed. This is exactly the kind of thing that should be handled privately, between adults, with full transparency and honest communication. I was throwing his words from the restaurant back at him, and he knew it. His jaw clenched. and I could see him fighting to maintain his composure. "Gentlemen!" Patricia Klein appeared beside us, her voice carrying the kind of authority that comes from years of managing crises. "I think we've all had enough excitement for one evening." She looked directly at me. "Mr. Harlan, isn't it? I believe we have some mutual acquaintances." The way she said it made it clear she knew exactly who I was and why I was there. Derek's face went from pale to gray. "Patricia, this isn't," he started. "Oh, I think it's exactly what it appears to be," she said calmly. "Mr. Harlan, would you mind if we continued this conversation somewhere more private?" She led us to a quiet corner of the terrace, away from the growing crowd of onlookers. Derek followed reluctantly, looking like a man walking to his execution. "I received some very interesting audio files this week," Patricia said once we were alone, "along with some equally interesting documentation about my husband's business practices and personal relationships." Derek's composure finally cracked. "Patricia, I can explain." "I'm sure you can. You've always been good with explanations, but right now, I'm more interested in what Mr. Harlan has to say." She turned to me expectantly. This wasn't going the way I'd planned, but I decided to roll with it. "I think your husband has been making some very poor decisions," I said carefully, "both personally and professionally. Decisions that have consequences for a lot of people. Including your wife? Especially my wife?" Patricia nodded slowly. "Derek, I want you to go home. Pack a bag, stay at your office, or a hotel, I don't care which. But don't come home tonight." "Patricia, you can't be serious." "I'm completely serious. And Mr. Harlan, thank you for bringing these matters to my attention. I think it's time my husband faced some consequences for his actions." Derek looked back and forth between us, his face a mixture of rage and desperation. "This isn't over," he said to me. "Yes, it is," Patricia said firmly. "It's been over for a long time. We just hadn't made it official yet." As Derek stalked away, I felt a mixture of satisfaction and sympathy for Patricia. She was handling this with more grace than I probably would have in her position. "I'm sorry you had to go through this," I said. "Don't be. I've known about Derek's affairs for years. I just needed the right moment to act on it." She smiled grimly. "Your timing was perfect." I left the country club feeling like I'd won a significant victory, but I knew the war wasn't over. Derek wouldn't take this lying down, and Erin was still out there, somewhere, probably planning her next move. My phone buzzed as I got to my car. A text from an unknown number. "You think you're so smart. This isn't finished." I showed the message to Tommy when I got back to the Rusty Nail to celebrate. "Sounds like Derek's not taking his public humiliation very well," Tommy observed. "Good. Let him stew in it." But as I drove home that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that Derek was planning something. Men like him didn't just accept defeat. They escalated. I was about to find out just how far Derek Klein was willing to go.